Hey, what is up guys, Murgaman4 here, back with another episode review for Doctor Who Series 10. Today I'm going to be giving my thoughts and opinions on the Eaters of Light, the 10th episode of the series, and the very final single episode adventure before the finale. So before I start, I'm going to say that the Eaters of Light was probably my most anticipated episode of the season, mainly because the writer of the episode, Rona Munro, is the very first writer from the classic series to return for the new series. And so Rona Munro wrote the very last classic series story, Survival, in 1989, and so she's back with the Eaters of Light, and I think that Survival is a better story than the Eaters of Light, so unfortunately the Eaters of Light is a step down for me. Now, that's not to say it's bad. I still think that it's definitely far from the worst of the season. It's probably somewhere around the middle of it. I mean, it wasn't an amazing episode. It wasn't anything particularly special, which is a little bit unfortunate, and it didn't quite live up to my expectations, but I still found it to be a serviceable episode of Doctor Who, and I think I enjoyed it a little bit better on rewatch. And so the whole central idea of the episode is the disappearance of the 9th Legion of the Roman Army. 5,000 soldiers just disappeared. And so Bill thinks that she knows what's up and kind of challenges the Doctor, certain that she's correct. And the Doctor disagrees with her, but, of course, he has a time machine, so he thinks, why not, let's go find out what happens. Now this beginning scene, while good, does feel a little bit out of place with the rest of the series, kind of like what happened with Empress of Mars last week, because Nardole has been so insistent on the Doctor not going anywhere, and here he follows him on another journey. Now he does make mention of the vault this week, saying that they should be guarding it instead, which did not happen in Empress of Mars, and the Doctor even mentions that Nardole was okay with him going to Mars in the previous adventure, but I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me that Nardole just kind of meekly accepts it now, when before, earlier in the season, he was so determined to keep the Doctor on Earth at the vault, and now he's just kind of like, yeah, you should be there, but I'm not going to fight you. And it's just a little bit of an inconsistency. Of course, we find out later in the episode that the Doctor isn't worried because he knows that Missy is in the TARDIS the whole time. But of course, I'm going to wait until the end to talk about that. Anyways, before I talk about any details of the episodes, let me just say the location work on this is excellent. It's just a gorgeous episode, and the locations used are just so stunning. The rolling hills are beautiful to look at, and I think that it really helps to set the atmosphere for the episode. So really good job there. I definitely appreciated that aspect. But anyways, the group splits up. Bill goes one way to find some Roman soldiers to prove to the Doctor that they are still there, while the Doctor and Nardole go elsewhere to investigate what could be going on. And so on their separate paths, Bill runs into a Pictish warrior who starts chasing after her with the sword. So Bill of course runs, and she ends up falling into a hole and meeting a Roman soldier, just like she was hoping for. And the Doctor and Nardole discover the 9th Legion completely obliterated, and they discover a single Roman soldier who, I think the Doctor says his bones have been disintegrated or something like that because of lack of sunlight, and he determines that it's got to be the work of an alien creature, because that sort of thing happens over years and years and years, but this happened very recently. And so we get to see the results of the titular Eater of Light's attack on the Roman army. Anyways, back with Bill and the Roman soldier, we get Bill's realization that the TARDIS is translating languages for her. This usually happens near the beginning of a companion's tenure, and so it may seem a little bit strange that this is happening so late in the series, but it's not unheard of. Sarah Jane Smith didn't get this explained to her until her second last story, and she was there for more than 3 seasons. But of course, it's not too out of place when you realize that Bill hasn't actually been on that many adventures where the translation circuits would be needed. But I think it's great that we have Bill figuring this out for herself instead of having the Doctor explain it to her. She's using her intuition and her logic to kind of piece the puzzle pieces together, and she realizes that it must be something to do with the Doctor and the TARDIS, some sort of telepathic field, so good on her for that. And I also especially like the line where she says that it even does lip sync, which of course plays on what the viewer sees as well, because even though they're really speaking another language, we don't just hear English, but we also see them speaking English as well. So I think it's really great to see that mentioned in the universe as well. And not only do we get to hear about the TARDIS translation circuits here, but later in the episode it also becomes a bit of a pivotal moment when the Romans and the Pictish people realize that they can understand each other as well. And this I thought was a little bit interesting because as far as I can remember, the translation only really works if you've traveled in the TARDIS or basically in the immediate vicinity of the TARDIS. But it does make sense because the Doctor has such a strong connection with the TARDIS that he would be able to share this gift with others as well. And I don't think we've seen it on quite the same scale, the same number of people as we see it here. I don't think that's ever been seen before, so it was a little bit of an interesting idea to explore. Anyways, back into chronological order of the episode. Roman and Bill escape from the little hole that they're in, and the Roman decides that he's going to try to take Bill to safety. But they run into the Eater of Light. This is our first glimpse of it. It doesn't really have a proper name. The Eater of Light is a little bit of a mouthful, but there you go, that's the only name it's given. And what I really like here is we only really see fleeting glimpses of it. We don't see it in its full form yet. When we do later, it's not nearly as effective. The CGI is a lot more obvious when you see the whole creature, especially in lengthier shots. So I really like this sequence here where you only get brief glimpses of it from a distance and stuff like that. It makes it a lot more effective and a lot more scary. And I really like this creature's design. I remember I really admired it when I first saw the trailer for the series. And I think the way that it kind of latches onto the people and pulls them towards them as it sucks, I guess, the light and life out of them. That was a really neat way of killing. Now, I am a little bit unsure what it's doing when it kills the people. Is it sucking the light out of them? I mean, because it's an Eater of Light. But, I don't know, I'm a little bit confused about that. I think the parameters of what the creature actually does aren't explored fully enough. And it's a little bit too ambiguous for my liking. But anyways, Bill finds the location that the first Roman soldier was telling her about, and she meets the remaining soldiers of the 9th Legion. They help her to escape from the creature, and she quickly befriends the group. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Bill have been captured by the Pictish warriors, and I really like this scene where they're waiting for their leader to arrive. I thought it was very humorous. Nardole bringing popcorn, and the Doctor putting up his hand and saying,
"That was the sound of my patience shattering into a billion little pieces."
I thought it was a really clever and really well written scene. And then their leader arrives. It's the same Pictish warrior we saw chasing Bill earlier in the episode, and she describes the Roman army to the Doctor and Nardole. It's a really effective description of them, really painting them as monstrous people. And then the Doctor and Nardole make a clever escape with the popcorn from earlier. The Doctor throws it into a fire, and of course all the warriors are confused, and in the confusion they escape. I thought that was a very classic series-esque escape. We don't really see that too often in New Who. And you know what? I just realized this. I don't think we saw the sonic screwdriver at all in this episode. That's really interesting. It usually makes an appearance all the time, at least once an episode. But I don't think we saw it at all here. So good job, Rona Munro. Good job not relying on that technology. I don't know what the screwdriver could have been used for in this episode, but it's an incredibly rare thing to not have the sonic screwdriver appear in an episode. So props to you. I didn't even notice until now. Anyways, back on track. The Doctor and Nardole go to this gate that was mentioned by the leader, who's known as the Gatekeeper. And the Doctor is, of course, suspicious of it. He doesn't know what kind of gate it is, so he goes inside the room or whatever that they've built around it. And the sun starts to rise and opens the gate to this portal, this dimension that's filled with these creatures. The Doctor is only in there for a few seconds, but when he comes out, it's been a couple of days. And so it's really interesting to have that time differential between the two dimensions. And while the Doctor's been in there, the Pictish warriors have found Nardole again, and he's gotten friendly with them, and they're now more or less on the same side. And then we cut back to Bill with the Roman soldiers, and I think this bit felt a little bit odd because when we last saw Bill, she had fainted, and now we're seeing her wake up, except this is 2 days later. So did she faint for 2 days and wake up at the same time the Doctor came back out? Because if so, that's very convenient. I don't know, that just felt a little bit strange to me. But the scene that follows, I think it's really good that they're establishing this relationship between Bill and the Romans. But here we touch on Bill's being gay again. And throughout the season it hasn't bothered me at all. I think it's been very subtle, and they've been handling it in a really good way. Here I think they brought it a bit too much to the forefront. I mean, it's certainly not a bad thing to be, you know, talking about that sort of thing and making a message about it, but when I was watching the scene I just felt a little bit uncomfortable, and it felt a little bit out of place with the rest of the things that were going on, and it was making it too obvious, I think. It worked a lot better when it was more subtle, and so the message was a good thing, but I just don't really feel like it fits within the rest of the episode. Anyways, here Bill gives an encouraging speech about how she needs to get back to the Doctor, and the Doctor can save them all, and that they need to escape from the caverns that they're in and actually do something about their predicament. And so as they're escaping, it's rather convenient that they end up underneath the very hut that the Doctor and Nardole and all the Pictish soldiers are in. But right there is the Eater of Light. Once again, I said I think it's better in fleeting glimpses. I think in this part it's used pretty well. Maybe we see it a little bit too much, but I do think it's really effective once again when we see the tongues or whatever they are wrapping around the soldier, and you can see the flame of the torch just kind of being sucked in, and I thought that was really good, but I'm pretty sure that's the only real depiction of the creature eating light outside of the resolution in the entire episode, and so I think that's a little bit weird once again with the killing the person. Anyways, now the Romans and the Pictish soldiers meet. The Doctor, Bill, and Nardole are all reunited again, and they band together to fight this creature and save the world. Now the Doctor gives a really scary description of these creatures and what they can do, that they'll eat the sun, they'll eat the stars. That is just a wonderful, wonderful description of a monster. But one of my major disappointments of the episode is that we never get to see this realized. Obviously, I didn't expect to see the creature actually eating the sun, but we also hear the Doctor earlier saying every hour of sunlight that feeds it, the creature grows stronger and the world grows darker, but we never really get to see this darker effect. I think it would have been extremely effective to have at least a scene of them in a well-lit area and then suddenly all the light getting sucked out by the creature as it consumes it. We never get a scene like that, so we never really get to see the power of the creature eating light. And so we don't get to see too much of it living up to its namesake. And so we don't really get to see the extent of its power, and the threat, therefore, is kind of diminished. But the Doctor has a plan. Earlier, we were introduced to these little things that I guess had some sort of stone inside of it that poisons the light as the creature eats it. I have no idea how that works, but okay, I'm willing to accept that. And they decide to lure the creature to where the portal is and basically just attack it with the poisoned light and push it back into the portal to stay there forever. And so the plan is going really well. They get the creature in there, and then the Doctor decides that he needs to stay there to guard the gate, because the humans, obviously, they have a much shorter lifespan. They will die out relatively quickly, but the Doctor can just keep going on and he can protect the world from this creature. Of course, on initial viewing at this point, we don't know what's up with Missy yet, so this seems really weird that he's so readily willing to abandon the vault to guard this area here. After rewatch, of course, we know that Missy is safe in the TARDIS, so it's not as big of a weird thing, but it's a little bit jarring at first. And of course, Nardole and Bill and all of the warriors there as well believe that the Doctor shouldn't be the one to do this. And the Romans and the Pictish warriors stand up to guard the gate forever. A bunch of them enter the portal to guard the world against the Eaters of Light forever. What I do kind of wonder about it, though, is how will they live in there? Will they, where are they going to get food? When are they going to get sleep? Stuff like that. And we see so many of those creatures in the portal, and so how are they going to fend off all those creatures when it's difficult enough to just fend off one? I don't know, I have some questions after that. The resolution, I mean, I guess it works. It's not a terrible resolution, but it does leave some questions. Anyways, the Doctor, Bill, and Nardole return to the TARDIS, and they go inside to find Missy inside of it. The Doctor, of course, knows about this because he was the one who let her in there in the first place. Nardole and Bill, however, are surprised. The Doctor seems to be having a little bit more trust in Missy. I think he does believe that maybe perhaps she is actually changing for the better. And we see a conversation near the very end between them where Missy starts to cry, and the Doctor suspects that perhaps she's putting on a show just to impress him and make him think that she is telling the truth. But there does seem to be at least something genuine there. I hope that Missy isn't actually turning good. I hope it's a ruse, because that is just so master to try to trick the Doctor like this so that she can gain her freedom. And of course we know that the next episode focuses around this, and it culminates the series arc. I do really like this idea, this dynamic between the Master and the Doctor, where the Master is trying to turn good, and the Doctor wants to trust her, wants to believe her, but there's still a little bit of him that doesn't believe it. So overall, I did quite enjoy the Eaters of Light. It doesn't quite live up to Rona Munro's previous contribution to the series, in my opinion, but it was a pretty decent episode. I enjoyed it a bit more on second watch, although I do feel like not a whole lot happened overall in the episode. After watching it, I did feel a little bit underwhelmed, and especially with the creature, we didn't really get to see it anywhere near its full potential, and I think that it was underused slightly because we didn't get to fully see the threat that it could pose. We hear about it, but we don't get to see it, so that's a little bit disappointing. But overall, it was a pretty good adventure, and I think I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10, above the pilot, but not quite at Knock Knock and Thin Ice, so about in the middle of the series for me. And so that brings my series average to 7.6 out of 10. But that's the very last standalone adventure of this series. And possibly the very last standalone one of Peter Capaldi's era. We don't know yet how connected the Christmas special will be to the finale. I assume it will be at least somewhat connected, so I think this is our very last truly standalone Peter Capaldi story. But anyways, next week we get the beginning of the finale with World Enough in Time, which looks amazing. We get to focus a lot more on Missy and her journey to become good, or is it just a deception? I'm hoping it's a deception. But it's also the return of the Mondasian Cybermen and John Sims Master, the very first multi-master story, the original 1966 version of the Cybermen. I am so excited for it. Please, Moffat, don't ruin these two characters for me. Please do a good job. It looks like it's going to be really great. And yeah, so just a couple more weeks and Peter Capaldi's final season will be over. It's flown by really fast. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Please put in the comments down below what you thought of the Eaters of Light. Do you prefer this or Rona Munro's Survival? Also, how excited are you for the finale to begin next week? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and Murgaman4 over and out. I'll see you guys later.